Now in this section we're going to take the mind map that's been created, the mood board, and also the digital imagery that was collected, and see how we can combine those with the words of the company name to create a logo. Now, one way we can do this is look at the elements, and one of the most basic things that we've got there is a step, which was something that Brian mentioned in the initial brief. So think about how the step could be used and combined with the words of the company name. So one way we might do that is to create little blocky steps here, and you can see that's actually been influenced by these steps here on the mood board. Or if we take a look here on the imagery, we've got this like a little checkerboard square paper type effect. Now maybe that could influence some block type steps here where the little square becomes the dot of the eye. So going back to the mind map, one of the other things that we had on there was chart. So we also had lots of reference for charts on the mood boards. So think about how you can combine the idea of a chart with the words of the company name. So one way you could perhaps do that would just be to simply use the dot of the eye to become part of a flowchart. Perhaps the chart, the actual flow of a chart, could go through the whole of the three words. Perhaps the eye could become a little tiny pie chart. As you can see, the sketches don't have to be brilliant, mine aren't. They're purely to work out your ideas. Looking back at the mind map, I had the word mountain, and it started making me think of climbing and climbers, and I wondered if I could do something with a climbing wall. So I went and had to look for some reference because I don't really know what they look like. So the easiest way to do that is just go onto Google, go to Google Images just by clicking Images up here, search climbing wall, and you'll get a load of reference. And I just download, like you did before at the beginning when you were looking for sort of reference images, just download any images that you think will help you. And so I worked out that I could probably use the dot of the eye again to make a little sort of climbing wall. It looks a bit like a juggler actually, but it was another option. And just like I said with the mind map, don't censor yourself when you're doing your sketching. It doesn't matter if it's something that's not appropriate at this stage, because you're going to narrow them down. So the more options you've got, the more options you've got to narrow down, and then you can hone them in as you go. Now another thing that Brian mentioned in his brief was the possibility of maybe using arrows to show improvement. And I thought that just by simply amending the T a little bit on continuous can make that into an upwards arrow. So what I suggest now is that you take all your ideas from your mood boards, your mind maps, and anything else you can think of along the way, and see how many different options you can come up with by using little elements of those and combining them with the words of the company name.